John hits the boof too hard and meets Jesus. A story by Daltotron. John took a deep whiff of the room, only to be stopped midway to be plunged into a coughing fit.
"Are you done yet, airbag?"
John pauses for a moment, composing himself. It smells like skunk and burnt tires. He scrunches up his face, sitting down on the couch's worn-down foam and springs. He sinks like a boulder falling into a riverbed. "Are you sure we should be doing this, Carcat?"
"Shut it! Gamzee swears by this shit."
Well, yeah, but Gamzee...
"What?
He doesn't seem all that...
All that what? Intelligent? I guarantee to you that Gamzee is trillions times smarter than your shriveled-up idea sponge can even comprehend."
If you say so. I just don't feel all that great about it.
"Trust me."
Okay. Carcat lights the blunt, taking a large rip of the half-smooth motion of someone who's only done it once or twice before. He passes it. John takes the blunt into his hand. He looks it over. It's brown, long, molded from cigarillo, but filled with, as John's father would have called it at the point in his pre-mortem existence, the devil's lettuce. Maybe he might have said that in his afterlife as well. John could hear the words of his father all too clearly bouncing off the inside of his head. He already felt high, and he hadn't taken a drag yet. He wondered why his father was so opposed to the idea. Of course, his father smoked all the time. John wondered if there was any real difference between the two.
"Are you gonna do it or wimp out on me like last time?"
John looked it over again. He decided to stop thinking about it. He took a fat rip, a long rip. He inhaled deeply, almost to the limit of his lungs. He burnt through a good inch of the cigarillo. He held it for a second, before letting it all come out. His stress was melted away at the exhalation as his mind gave way to the hallucinations. He waited a couple seconds. Nothing had happened.
"Impressive."
"So when's this supposed to come on?" John's speech was dragged out like his fat rip, as John's mind was instantly in the hold of the drug. He could feel himself rising up, like the last threads of his smoke. Everything took on an ethereal quality that John had only felt at 3 a.m., long after he was supposed to be in bed. Then his mind started to plunge into itself. He felt his head bob up and down slowly as he struggled to keep his neck up from the recoil. He could feel all of his tiredness from the last of his life compounding onto itself and flooding his mind. His eyelids drooped low. He tried to find the will to fight it, but it just dropped out from under him.
"Hey man, are you okay?"
John didn't hear the rest of it as his face plummeted towards the floor.
Darkness washed over the dude, darker than a black steers took us on a moonless prairie night. There was no bottom.
John couldn't feel anything as he fell. He supposed he laid there for quite some time, though he had no conception of that. What he could feel was his face getting warmer, as if bathed by the rich sunlight on a summer morning. "Hello, John." He heard a voice with a vastness that encompassed the most basic fundamental laws of reality reach out to him. A light from the intense darkness flooded into his brain. His eyes were open, and he could see. Who was that again? He could have sworn that he'd seen this guy before somewhere. He decided to stand up and get a better look at him. Jesus. What? I'm Jesus. Yeah, he could see it now. It made sense. Was he the real Jesus, though, and not some fake of Yes, I'm the real Jesus. The one and only. But that would mean, you're not dead, John. You just hit the boof way too hard. Maybe it was all in his head. That would make more sense than hitting the boof too hard and going to heaven. That would make the mind reading going on here make more sense. In fact, he's never really been a Christian either, so that doesn't really make any sense, does it? Jesus pulled his lips tight and ran his forefinger and thumb across his brow. Look, John, I don't really have time to explain all this to you. Well, I do, but I don't want to. That's a tedious conversation that I don't want to go through right now, and you're enough of a dork to accept that cliche of a reasoning, right? I guess. Good. I always know that I could count on your dorkitude. You're here because this is your wake-up call. My what? Nugget, can you not hear correctly? I already know the answer to that, by the way. You heard me right. You've been fucking around all this years doing jack shit. Sure, it was funny the first couple of times when you were in your bedroom with your arms and legs in the recurring gags, but it's time you grow a pair and get to business. What? Stop saying what at me, fool. You know exactly what I'm talking about. All of your friends are really just pretty fucking useless for accomplishing anything or generally being sane. You're different, John. You're the protagonist. Start acting like it.
John was dumbfounded. He kind of expected Jesus to be a nicer guy.
Yeah, well, I'm getting kind of sick of you and your friends' bullshit, John. I know you're all supposed to be 13 or whatever, but back in my day, 13-year-olds were killing half-demons and evil kings with fucking rocks.
John couldn't process any of this at the moment. His brain was fried by the whole sequence of events.
How about you process it outside?
Sure.
That wasn't a question, John. You're going.
Okay, and just like that, John was plunged straight back into the darkness. He could feel a different voice echoing inside of his head as he opened his eyes once more, and the feeling returned to his body. The feeling of being vigorously shaked, and the stinging of a slapped face.
John, get the fuck up! Don't die from the boof, John! I can't let another friend die from the high!
John was being jostled like a rag doll by Carcass. As soon as John opened his eyes, he saw the jostler's face looking back at him, full of tears. Upon closer inspection, he could also see more people gathered around his formerly limp body. He spotted Dave just behind Carcat with a grim look on his face. He could see Rose looking down at him from behind with a tearful smirk, and Kanaya right beside her. Terezi was hanging to his left with an uncomforting smile.
John, what the fuck happened to you?
Did you hallucinate weird anime dreams again?
I think it's pretty safe to say we'd all like to know what's going on here, yes. Rose looked at Carcat with a grimace. John spoke up from his place lying on the floor. He was completely shaken. I saw Jesus.